My ex-wife cheated on me, and now I have to be a part-time dad to her affair child. I'm really angry about this kid, Max, my ex-wife's kid from her affair. It messed up my life, and now I'm being asked to be a dad to him. I've been wanting to write about this for a while. It's been rough since my wife told me about her affair, just a week after she told me she was pregnant. It was supposed to be our kid. I was excited. I was thinking about all the fun we were going to have, all the adventures we'd go on. We were going to be a family. It was a really tough time, emotionally. I was happy, thinking I was going to be a dad, and then all of a sudden, my whole world turned upside down. I felt betrayed and broken. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could this happen? How could she do this to me? We had built a life together, and now it felt like everything was crumbling. It was hard to handle, and I made it clear she had to stop the pregnancy. She wouldn't, because she felt it was wrong to end a life. So, I started divorce proceedings. Now, she's married to the guy she had the affair with. It felt like my world was spinning. I didn't know where to turn. It felt like I had lost my whole family, and it hurt. The divorce felt like I was losing everything that had ever mattered. There was so much anger and sadness that I felt it could never go away. The divorce proceedings dragged on. It felt like they'd never end, like my whole life was on pause. It wasn't just about getting a divorce, it was about rebuilding my life and making sure my boys would be okay. That's what really mattered, but how could I ever build a new life, and what would it even look like? Custody was a big fight too. I wanted to keep my 2 boys, but it was clear that wouldn't happen. I had to admit it was good for the boys to have their mom in their lives. It's amazing, but we still work together to be parents. My boys were the only thing I was sure of, and I had to do everything I could to protect them. So I made the decision, the hardest decision of my life. I agreed to shared custody. I had to be strong for my boys, but it was hard to see their mother every other week. We've had our sons every other week for 2 years. Now, Max is old enough for school, and they want him to go back and forth with the boys every week, like he's our kid too. They all sat me down with it, my ex, her partner, and the boys. I was surprised when they all came to me. I thought they would just work things out on their own. It's funny how life has a way of throwing you curveballs. It's not like I was waiting around for this to happen, but all of a sudden I was having this discussion about sharing custody with a kid I don't even know. It's kind of hard to say no to a bunch of kids who just want to be together, even though I'm super upset about the whole thing. It's like I can't say, I hate that he exists. So, I said okay. I hated having to say it, but there I was, signing up to be a part-time dad to this kid. But what could I say? I knew this arrangement would be bad, but I also knew how much it meant to the boys. I really do hate him. I know he doesn't deserve it, and it's not his fault how he came to be. But it doesn't matter. He's a reminder of how hurt I am, all the bad feelings. He's here for his 2nd week, and I feel super angry. I don't like hearing him talk. I get mad for no good reason if he needs help in the kitchen. I'm short-tempered with him about stuff I'd never get mad at my own boys about. It's stupid anger that just pops out. This is Max's 2nd week with us. It's been like watching the same nightmare over and over. He doesn't do anything wrong. He's a child. He has the innocence of any kid. But his presence just triggers this rage in me. This kid who has no idea how much he's broken my life, his bright, happy innocence is just an echo of everything that I've lost. It's been rough these past years. It's been one humiliation after another. To keep things from falling apart, I keep telling myself that being angry won't help me or the boys. I just keep my mouth shut and do the right thing. I even talk to their mom and Max's dad because there's no other choice. I'm actually proud of myself for that. I felt like I had to be the bigger person. That's what everyone said to do. Be the bigger person, be the strong one. But there were moments, many moments when it was hard. I wanted to scream, to tell them how much they had hurt me, how much pain I was in, but I held it all inside. The hurt was buried deep down, like a bad memory I didn't want to relive, but that was always there, always lurking, waiting for any opportunity to jump out and grab hold of me. But maybe I'm wrong to be so nice. It's not enough when Max is around. All that anger I held back just explodes. I thought I was doing the right thing, but now I wonder if it's better to just keep fighting back and be miserable. I think about just saying, no, I can't do this, and ending this arrangement. But how do I explain that? No one will be happy with that. The boys wouldn't understand why they'd be treated differently because of who their dad is. My oldest told me that, and I was proud of him, but ashamed of myself for being so angry. My ex and her partner would be upset, and I'd almost rather not care about that, like they just want a free break. But I try not to think like that. My ex has good points about it being best for the kids. But I just remember how she lied to me, and how much I trusted her back then. The memory of what she did is still painful, but the hardest part of all of this was trying to find a way to move forward. The boys need a dad, they need both of us, even though everything inside of me is screaming, no, I can't help but want the best for my children. I have to be strong for them, I have to do the right thing, even if it kills me. I guess I have to suck it up. But I have to be more than a babysitter for Max. He deserves to be loved, not just tolerated. Can I do that? Maybe not. I'm afraid I can't back out now, and then I'll just keep getting angrier and take it out on people who don't deserve it. In the comments, Andraste47 said they were paying me for babysitting so they could be alone. She said that I have to care for my kids, but Max is their problem, not mine. She said they were using my weakness to get free babysitting. Andraste47 thinks having Max around all the time would be bad for him, and that he'd be better off at home with his parents while my sons stay with me. I explained that we already share most of the expenses for the boys. I do get a good amount of money from them for watching Max, and that's reasonable. Another user said that my ex was asking too much of me and that I should end this whole thing. She suggested I maybe take a break while I figure things out and try therapy. She said that Max didn't do anything wrong but that his arrival ruined my life. She also said that my ex was trying to get her perfect family by making me accommodate her actions. The user said that I should not try to do that for her. I should only focus on my sons, and that she needs to take care of this herself. I replied that I wish I could stop all contact with my ex. She's happy now and I'm still angry and hurt. It's tough watching that. Wishing on Mars said that I should not take Max in if I can't treat him the same way as my own sons. He knows that the boys will be separated sometimes, and it's not my fault. Max deserves a home where he feels equal, but he knows how I feel about Max, and that it would be hard to treat him equally. He said he understands why I feel this way, that Max represents all the hurt. But, he said I have to know myself and what I can handle. If I can't love Max, I shouldn't take him in. It would hurt everyone. Update: it's been a few weeks, and I have an update. So, a lot of people had a lot to say about my post, and almost everyone said the same thing. This arrangement is not normal. People who were in blended families or who were cheated on, and even people who were like Max in their families, they all said that no one had ever heard of this kind of arrangement. I decided I was done with it and told my ex and her partner a few days after I wrote the post. They were on their custody week. Lots of people said I should have told my sons first, like my ex did to me, but I wanted to tell them before I had Max again. I thought I could tell them what they did was wrong, get them to agree to tell the boys about stuff like this before I found out, and then we could all talk together. It went really bad. They were both mad at me. I knew it would be hard, and I just tried to be calm and firm. I told them I just couldn't do it anymore, and I didn't have to explain why. It turned out this guy had based his whole career on this schedule. He blamed me for messing up his life. Now I'm feeling bad about that. I regret agreeing to this in the first place, but at the time I was so angry that I didn't care about his work stuff. Then, he said I wasn't being fair. He said all they wanted was a fair arrangement. That made me furious. My heart is racing just writing about it. I think fairness means different things to different people. I said some really terrible things to them. Then, we yelled at each other for a while, and I left. I didn't see my sons that day. It was a few days until I saw my sons again. They were immediately wondering where Max was. I had to talk to them seriously. I told them I knew they like spending time with Max, but he has his dad, and I'm their dad. I said that all this mess is hard on me, and that I don't like only seeing them every other week. I also told them how sad I am that their mom made a new family with Max's dad and Max. It's really hard talking about this stuff. I try to be respectful of their mom, and that means I don't talk badly about her to them. So, I haven't talked about her or the divorce much. You can't say anything nice, they say. It's hard trying to respect her while being honest about how I feel. I don't want to blame their mom, but I also don't want to not blame her. That's what I call unfair. I'm supposed to act like everything's normal and never say anything bad about my ex. But that means I have to explain what's going on without saying anything bad about her. She decided, but I think I did a good job explaining. The boys understood more than I thought. A few weeks later, everything is back to normal. I've had a few short conversations with my ex since the big fight. I want her to say she's sorry, but I know I'm only making myself unhappy waiting for that. I think she's mad at me for what I said, more than the fact that I said no to the whole Max arrangement. Or maybe that's just how I feel, and I'm feeling guilty about that. I also regret how I said goodbye to Max before ending the arrangement. It's not good. I guess his mom explained to him that she missed him too much, and that's why he was leaving, but I don't know how much he'll buy that. Reading my post made me feel ashamed of how I talked about Max. I know he doesn't deserve that. And I know he's going to be in my life, so I have to learn to deal with him. I'm still angry at my ex, but she doesn't have to care about that. And I have to talk to her nicely. So, that anger got put away and then exploded out at Max. It was my fault. I guess things will go back to normal. Talking to my ex is awkward, but it'll get better. Thanks to everyone who wrote me. I guess I can't completely separate the two kids, but what makes this even more infuriating is that their parents are so thrilled about it all. I guess it doesn't really matter what I think, they have their happy family. I guess I can't help but hate this perfect happy family, when it's all built on the rubble of my life. And I still feel like there's a huge question hanging in the air. What am I supposed to do now? So I get Max on Wednesday. He's coming to stay for a week, so we'll do all the normal kid things, go to the park, watch movies. I'll try not to get angry when he wants to help in the kitchen. I'll try to treat him like a part of our family, but I know it will be hard. It's just a matter of time before I start hating him again. I wonder if there is ever any way for me to find a place where I can feel whole, where I can feel loved again, where I can stop feeling so hurt. But when I look at the three boys, who I do love, it's kind of nice to have some stability. I know it's a difficult time for them, and I need to be there for them. I guess I'm doing what I have to do, but how do I live my life this way, forever trapped in this cycle of anger and heartbreak? I don't know. For now, I just have to take it one day at a time and focus on what I can control. Maybe someday, maybe eventually, things will be okay. I guess for now I'm going to try and get through Max's visit, one day at a time. The boys seem to be doing alright. That gives me hope. I have to be there for them, and maybe someday I can get out from under all this sadness. Maybe one day the anger will fade away and I can stop being the angry one. Maybe I can find peace, a sense of closure, and I can move on with my life. Next story. My boyfriend is disgusted at me for my habits and wants me to change them. Okay, here goes. Posting this online feels weird, but I really don't know where else to go for advice. I'm pretty new to this whole internet thing anyway. So, here's the deal. My boyfriend, Mark, and I have been dating for about 5 months. He's sort of moved in, not officially. We haven't actually had that conversation, but most of his stuff is at my place. A few things are in storage, but he sleeps at my place most nights. And I just found out he gave up his old apartment. Mark's a quiet person, so finding out things about him a little late isn't exactly new. I'm usually fine with it. He's really sweet to me most of the time, just not much of a talker. He's kind of a mystery, even about things you'd think he'd mention. Anyway, ever since he's been staying with me so much, he's started getting weirdly judgmental about all these little things. Like, he'll get annoyed because I leave my wet toothbrush cup upside down on the sink to dry instead of drying it with a towel. He doesn't like it when I don't wear socks with my slippers. He even gets grumpy if I'm humming while I'm doing something or if I check the mail in my pajamas. It's mostly little stuff, and I just change how I do things because arguing about it just doesn't seem worth it. Then things started getting really strange. About 10 days ago, Mark was still at my place when I ate breakfast, which is unusual. He usually leaves before I get up. Anyway, I put some tomato paste on my toast. It's something I've done since I was little. My family didn't have much money back then, so we had to be creative. I guess it just stuck with me. But the moment I took a bite, Mark made this awful face, like he just smelled something really bad. He was totally disgusted, and he actually got mad at me. He kept going on about how disturbing it was that I ate tomato paste straight from the tube. He was acting like I was eating a live cockroach or something, honestly. I tried to tell him it was just tomato paste, but he wasn't having it. It felt kind of ridiculous at the time. I mean, seriously, it's tomato paste. After that, Mark went back to leaving before I ate breakfast. But then last Friday, things took a turn for the worse. We went to the zoo with Mark's coworker, Steve, and his wife, Anna. I packed sandwiches for everyone, turkey for the guys, and my usual whole wheat with butter and tomato paste for me. I made sure everything was wrapped up separate so the flavors wouldn't mix. Well, at lunchtime, Steve's wife saw me take out my sandwich, and I guess she was curious about it, probably because of the bright red color. But before I could say anything, Mark blurted out, "It's just a jelly sandwich." It was so awkward. I mean, it obviously wasn't jelly. Anna looked super confused, and I felt my face turning bright red. I just wanted to disappear. Mark immediately dragged me away from everyone. He was really angry and accused me of embarrassing him in front of his coworker. Honestly, I was getting mad at this point, too. It was just a sandwich, why was he making such a huge deal out of it? When I finally got up the courage to ask him what his problem was, his answer completely shocked me. He said, "You eat like an animal." He told me that eating non-sweet things is manly and disgusting for a woman. And then he started ranting about how he couldn't believe I was trying so hard to humiliate him. His words hit me hard. I felt hurt, confused, and just plain awful. It wasn't really about the food anymore. It was about the way Mark was making me feel. He was making me feel small, embarrassed, like I was a bad person just because of the food I liked to eat. It made me wonder what other, weird, habits he was secretly judging me for. We went through the rest of the day, but I felt numb, like I was just going through the motions. I kept thinking about what Mark said, and the more I thought about it, the more uneasy I felt. Over the weekend, I spent a lot of time thinking about everything. I realized that the whole tomato paste thing was just the tip of the iceberg. Mark was constantly criticizing and picking at me, and it was wearing me down. All those little things, the ones I kept changing to make him happy, weren't they actually parts of what made me me? The more I thought about it, the more scared I became. When Mark came over on Monday, I knew I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Something had been nagging at me, and I finally decided to confront him about it. Over the past few weeks, I realized I'd hardly seen any evidence of his own apartment, no stray keys, no mail, no extra toiletries. It dawned on me that I didn't actually know how long it had been since he gave up his place. And, thinking about how frequently he was criticizing me, another thought struck me like a bolt of lightning. I didn't really know if he had anywhere else to go when he wasn't at my place, which actually did happen sometimes, even if it wasn't very often. My heart pounded in my chest as I tried to sound calm. "Mark," I said, "you haven't really talked about what you're thinking long term. Do we split the rent? What about groceries? And, well, where do you stay when you're not here?" I could practically see his mood shift in an instant. Gone was the quiet, distant Mark one was used to, replaced with a flash of anger in his eyes. "What's with all the questions?" he snapped, his voice sharp. "Just drop it, okay? I don't want to talk about it." He refused to answer a single one of my questions. His sudden anger caught me off guard, and I found myself shrinking back from him, fear twisting in my gut. This wasn't like him, at least, not the him I thought I knew. And that's when I truly realized. It wasn't about my weird habits, the tomato paste, my slippers, or my humming. It was about Mark trying to control me. I'd been so busy trying to please him, so desperate to keep things smooth between us, that I'd missed all the warning signs. It was like he was slowly tightening a grip around my life, piece by piece. "That's it," I said, my voice shaky. "I don't want to be with you anymore." The words felt weighty, terrifying, but also free. Mark just scowled at me. "We'll talk about it later," he mumbled, and stormed out of the apartment. That was the moment I knew there wasn't going to be any talking about it later. This wasn't a fight we'd make up after. It was over. As soon as the door clicked shut, I let out a breath I hadn't even realized I was holding. My hands trembled as I picked up my phone. First, I called my parents. I'd always been kind of nervous about how they really felt about Mark. They'd seemed a little too enthusiastic about him, and something about their enthusiasm always made me uneasy. Unfortunately, they didn't quite grasp the situation. They were much more concerned about patching things up with Mark than they were about helping me get him out of my life. Disappointment welled up inside me. Just as I was starting to feel overwhelmed, a surprising hero stepped up. Out of the blue, my aunt's stepson called. He'd been at my aunt's wedding a couple months ago, but we hadn't talked much beyond that. Now here he was, offering to come over and help me pack Mark's stuff up while he was at work. I was speechless. I knew it probably wasn't the nicest thing, but I also called Mark's mom. I didn't necessarily want to drag his family into it, but I felt a responsibility to make sure he had somewhere to go. I was actually surprised when she didn't seem all that surprised by my news. She was actually pretty understanding and told me that they had an extra room ready for him. Then I took the scariest step. I posted my story online, seeking advice from strangers, which is how you ended up reading this, I guess. The rest of the day was a blur. I spent it packing up Mark's belongings with the help of my amazing knight in shining armor, stepson of my aunt, feeling a bizarre mix of emotions. It was a weird mix of relief, regret, sadness, and excitement all at the same time. It was both painful and empowering to go through the things he'd left behind: clothes, books, random trinkets. It felt symbolic, like I was finally sorting through the messy confusion that had become my relationship. My ex-girlfriend, who, honestly, I did not part ways with on the best of terms, even came over to help. Both she and my aunt's stepson gave me a bit of a hard time about how naive I'd been about Mark, but it was also reassuring. I'd made a lot of mistakes, but at least I wasn't alone now. And now here I am. Mark will be back soon, but by then, all of his things will be gone, my locks will be changed, and my apartment, my life, will be mine again. I know some people might think I was foolish, and maybe I was. Maybe I was too quick to try to please him, too eager to overlook the bad stuff. But reading some of the comments from strangers on that online post was the wake-up call I really needed. It helped me understand that all those weird habits Mark criticized were actually pieces of myself. They were parts of me I had been too quick to throw away in order to make someone else happy. I know now that real love isn't about sacrificing who you are to please another person. It's about finding someone who accepts you, quirks and all, even the strange habit of eating tomato paste on toast. It's about building a relationship where you can be yourself, where your quirks are celebrated, not condemned. Maybe I'm not there yet, but now, at least, I'm free to figure out who I am and what I want, and I can't wait to get started.